Hello, I'm Simon. Welcome back to the workshop. Now, you've seen me make a few pens over the last few months with my new mini lathe, and I thought it would be interesting to see if I could actually make a pen using plywood. Now, I've never seen a plywood pen before, so it might be something that just isn't possible to do, but I want to find out and see if it can be done. So if you want to find out with me, let's get tinkering. If you've been watching this channel for any length of time, then you'll know that almost all my projects start with a piece of scrap wood, and this one is no exception. I now feel completely vindicated and justified for keeping this tiny scrap of birch ply. I want these pieces to be cut reasonably square, so you can see that I'm using a bit of kitchen board which has a factory square edge on it to push the plywood through the blade. I'm just going to cut as many as I can from this piece of wood, because I don't know how many times I'll have to do this, because I am quite worried that the plywood won't hold together and that it'll just keep exploding. So if I make enough pen blanks, I should hopefully be able to get at least one pen out of this piece of wood, hopefully more. Whilst there are lots of glue spreaders on the market, I find the Mark I glue spreader works the best and gives the finest control. I highly recommend, if you've got some glue up to do, to always do a dry fit first, just so that you can get in your head the strategy for your clamping, which is what I've done here. For this clamping scheme, because the plywood has very close tolerances, I should be able to glue up all the pieces in one go and just clamp them with these couple of clamps, and then using this gluing board that I've just temporarily created with more clamps and boards, I should be able to get enough clamping force for everything to glue up nicely. I added some extra weights and left it for a day to cure. There are lots of ways of drilling these pen blanks, but I like using the lathe, so I printed out a new collet to fit these blanks. So here you can see I've had a bit of blowout on the very last layer, but these lengths are just long enough that I don't need that layer. I can take it off, and I'll do that in the next step. So I trim the ends. Now, regular viewers will know that I've turned a few pens, but that using a lathe and pen turning is still relatively new to me. I haven't had my lathe very long, but if I can do it, then that suggests if you wanted to get a lathe and turn pens, then you'd be able to do it also. One thing I'm not sure I'll be as successful with is turning these pens made of plywood. They could just explode on me as I start to turn them. I really don't know how these are going to turn out, but we can find out together. Now, to add to my general anxiety of turning this wood, I noticed that one of the layers had a cavity in it and I could see all the way down to the brass tube, so I've filled that and we'll see how that goes, and I might have to fill it again because I'm not sure if I got the filler all the way to the brass tube or not, but we'll see. It's all a learning experience. So I sort of filler fly out of this one. It obviously wasn't dry, but I think that's recoverable. I think I could fill this little cut mark here and it'd be fine. The overall surface finish is pretty rough. I'm hoping I can improve that with sanding. This one, however, I don't think is recoverable. I'm going to have to take off all of this wood, put a new blank on and try again. But I'll just sand up this one and see if I can get it to look nice. If I can, then I'll try again at making this one. Because the wood's quite rough, I'm going to start off with 220 grit. So this second one I've turned's come out okay. It's still just as rough, but we've seen that I can sand that out quite easily. So I'll now put both back on the mandrel and we'll carry on. Now, I don't know how well you'll see this. There's a little cavity here, it's like an imperfection in the wood. Another one here, a little tiny one here. And at this end there's a little tiny one as well. I think there's just one just here as well, a little tiny one. So I'm going to see if I can sort them out with a little bit of filler and a little bit of sanding, and we'll see if it's recoverable. It's very cold in the workshop today and I've only left the filler about half an hour to cure, and I'm going to give it a very light sanding. I then add some sanding sealer before finishing off the sanding with 400 grit. I'm also thinking that because all of the wood is end grain, it will be useful to stabilise it all using some CA or super glue. And finally, I'm going to use some friction polish. Well, it's a pretty interesting effect. The wood sort of sheens, it's almost metallic in places. Let's see what it looks like when the pen's assembled. So what do you think? It's certainly different. Like I say, I've never seen a plywood pen before. If you've seen plywood pens before, then let me know in the comments. Also, let me know in the comments what you think. Do you like this pen? Do you think it's something that you'd be happy to use and feel proud of showing people? Or do you think it just looks like a lump of plywood? Let me know in the comments. Well, I set out to make a pen out of old scraps of plywood and I've succeeded there. Now, whilst it's a little bit more difficult than using pen blanks where the grain goes along the pen, it wasn't that difficult to do. It required a little bit more thought and a little bit more in terms of finish to get it to how I wanted it, but I think I've been successful. If you like this pen or if you dislike this pen, then let me know in the comments. I'd really like to hear from you. If you've enjoyed this video, then please leave a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more videos like this, then please subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.